The doctors need to evaluate you, Jennifer. Margaret's voice oozed with artificial concern as she addressed the family gathering. We're all worried about your episodes. Seated at the far end of the dinner table, I lifted my water glass with steady hands, though inside I was seething. Margaret was performing again, spinning her latest fabrication, and I watched as the family absorbed every carefully placed word. Some avoided my gaze, already convinced of my supposed instability. Others exchanged glances but remained silent, unwilling to challenge her. My name is Jennifer Chen, and at 32, I found myself at the center of my mother-in-law's most elaborate scheme yet, an orchestrated attempt to drive me away from her son. What began as offhanded comments about my anxiety had escalated into a full-scale campaign to paint me as mentally unwell. And worst of all, she'd done it so methodically that even my husband, Mike, had started to waver. Remember last month when she forgot to pick up Tommy from soccer? Margaret continued, feigning sympathy as she gestured with her wine glass. And then that incident at the grocery store. Ah, yes. The carefully manufactured prices. The soccer pickup she'd sabotaged by falsely telling me practice was canceled, only to drive Tommy there herself and let Mike believe I'd simply forgotten. The grocery store incident, where she'd whispered to onlookers that I was behaving erratically, right as I confronted her for tampering with my shopping list. But Margaret had miscalculated. She didn't know that for the past 3 months, I'd been seeing Dr. Sarah Patterson, one of the most respected psychiatrists in the city. Not because I was unstable, but because I needed an expert witness. Someone to document the truth. I've already seen a doctor, Margaret, I said, my voice calm and measured. Her eyes narrowed, a flicker of unease disrupting her polished act. This wasn't in her script. Oh. She recovered quickly, tilting her head in mock curiosity. And what did they say, dear? I smiled, thinking of the detailed records Dr. Patterson had compiled. The reports, the timestamps, the undeniable proof. Why don't we discuss that at next week's family dinner? I think everyone would find the professional assessment enlightening. Margaret's grip tightened on her glass. She had spent months constructing her web of deception, weaving doubt into every interaction. But she underestimated me. While she was busy setting traps, I was quietly collecting receipts. 7 days. That was all that remained before Margaret's carefully curated reality came crashing down. I glanced around the table, taking in the wary expressions of my in-laws, the tension thick in the air. They thought this was another one of Margaret's interventions. Another evening where she played the role of the concerned matriarch while I sat there, accused and defenseless. Not this time. Looking back, I should have seen it coming sooner. When I first married Mike 3 years ago, Margaret had been all warmth and welcome, too much of it. She invited me for tea, pried into my family history, latched onto the fact that my mother had passed away when I was young. Some people just don't handle stress well, she'd murmured whenever I showed emotion, planting seeds early. Then, 6 months ago, right after Mike and I announced we were trying for a baby, her mask slipped. I saw the flicker of panic in her eyes before she plastered on a congratulatory smile. That's when the incidents began. At first, they were subtle. Items in my home moved, misplaced. Margaret would gently express concern about my forgetfulness. She visited my workplace unannounced, telling my colleagues she was worried about me. Then, the bigger moves. The soccer practice setup, the staged grocery store scene. She was building a case, brick by brick, turning my own life into a performance where I played the unraveling wife. But she had no idea I'd been documenting everything. Every conversation, every manipulation, every lie. The recorded phone call where she deliberately misled me about Tommy's practice. Just one piece of the puzzle. Jennifer, are you with us? Margaret's voice cut through my thoughts, coated in false sweetness. You seemed a little distant. I met her gaze, unwavering. Just thinking about next week's dinner, Margaret. I have so much to share. The room tensed. Margaret tilted her head, her expression carefully controlled. But I saw it, that flicker of uncertainty. For the first time, she wasn't sure of her grip on the narrative. She had spent months convincing everyone I was losing my mind. In 7 days, she'd realized just how wrong she was. The week leading up to the family dinner felt like the calm before a storm. Each evening, I meticulously organized the evidence I had gathered, every document another nail in the coffin of Margaret's carefully constructed lies. Dr. Patterson had been thorough. What your mother-in-law is doing, she told me in one of our sessions, is a textbook case of gaslighting and psychological abuse. Her official report outlined everything: recordings, witness statements, expert analysis. The morning of the dinner, my phone rang. Margaret. "Jennifer, dear, maybe we should cancel tonight," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "You seem rather stressed." I smiled. "Actually, Margaret, I'm feeling perfectly stable. In fact, I've invited Dr. Patterson to join us." Silence, a beat too long. Then, a clipped, "I see." That evening, the dining room filled with family. Mike sat beside me, his jaw tight, his fingers drumming anxiously against the table. He had spent months caught in the middle, torn between his mother's whispered warnings and his own uncertainty. Then Margaret arrived, last as always, her pearl necklace gleaming under the chandelier, her armor of choice. She swept into the room, poised, composed, until she saw Dr. Patterson already seated at the table. Her smile flickered. I stood. "Before we begin, I'd like to share something with everyone." I handed out copies of Dr. Patterson's report, the weight of months of gaslighting and deceit pressing into their hands. "For the past 3 months, I've been seeing Dr. Patterson, not because I'm unstable, but because I needed an expert to document what's really been happening." Margaret's fingers tightened around the paper. "This is absurd," she snapped. Clearly, she's manipulated this doctor too. Dr. Patterson, ever composed, folded her hands on the table. "Mrs. Chen, I have documented 37 separate incidents where you deliberately engineered situations to make Jennifer appear unstable. Would you like me to go through them?" Silence. Then she did exactly that. The soccer practice deception, the staged grocery store scene, the unannounced workplace visits, each event laid out methodically, backed by witness statements, Tommy's coach, store employees, my colleagues. The final blow came when Dr. Patterson pressed play on an audio recording. Margaret's voice filled the room. "There's no practice today. It's canceled. Just stay home. I'll take care of it." Undeniable. Unforgivable. Mike's hand found mine under the table, his grip tightening. His unspoken apology. His mother's betrayal, now irrefutable. Margaret's face was ashen, her breath coming short. "I was trying to protect our family," she choked out. "She's not right for us. I was only trying to make everyone see." "See what, Margaret?" My voice was quiet, but it cut through the room like a blade. "That you could drive me away. That you could convince everyone I was losing my mind." Across the table, my father-in-law, silent until now, exhaled heavily. "Mildred," he said, his voice laced with something I had never heard before. Disappointment. "What have you done?" Margaret's gaze darted around the table, searching for an ally. There were none. The perfect mother-in-law mask had cracked, and everyone finally saw what lay beneath. This was the moment I had been waiting for, but I felt no satisfaction in her downfall. No triumph. Only relief. Relief that the truth had finally come to light. The aftermath of that dinner was the true reckoning. Margaret left in tears, but her dramatic exit wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the consequences she never saw coming. Mike was the first to draw the line. "Mom, either you get professional help or you won't be part of our lives anymore." His voice was firm, his decision final. Margaret's breath hitched. "You're choosing her over your own mother?" "No, Mom." He met her gaze without flinching. "I'm choosing the truth." And that truth rippled through the family. The apologies started rolling in. My sister-in-law, Sarah, called first, her voice tight with guilt. "Margaret told me you were having breakdowns. That you were dangerous. I should have come to you instead of believing her." Word of Margaret's manipulation spread, and the fallout followed. The country club committee, where she once reigned, quietly removed her from her prestigious role. Friends who had once hung on her every word now kept their distance. Her carefully curated reputation unraveled, thread by thread. But the most profound shift was in my marriage. One evening, as Mike and I sat on the porch watching Tommy chase fireflies in the yard, he turned to me, his expression heavy. "I'm sorry I ever doubted you, even for a second." I exhaled, the weight of the past months settling around us. "You were caught in the middle," I said. "She's your mother. But you're my wife." His voice was firm. "I should have seen it sooner." Margaret eventually started seeing a therapist, though I suspected it was more to salvage what was left of her image than out of genuine regret. At family gatherings, she was quieter, her presence diminished. She had lost her power the moment the truth had been laid bare. Then, 6 months later, an unexpected call came from my father-in-law. "Jennifer, I want you to know, I've removed Margaret from the family trust. After what she did, I can't risk her having that kind of control again." It wasn't about money, it was about accountability. One day, Tommy, old enough now to understand pieces of what had happened, asked me, "Mom, is Grandma still sick in her head?" I chose my words carefully. "No, sweetheart, Grandma made bad choices, but she's learning to make better ones." The last time I saw Margaret at Tommy's school play, she seemed smaller. The perfect outfit, the polished pearls, they couldn't mask the slump of her shoulders, the way her eyes flicked to me, not with disdain, but with reluctant acknowledgement. Later, Dr. Patterson told me, "Your case has become a teaching example in my practice. Proof that with patience and documentation, gaslighting can be dismantled." I still keep that report locked away in my desk, not because I need it anymore, but as a reminder that the best defense against manipulation isn't anger or revenge. It's truth, undeniable and unshakable. Margaret never apologized. Not really, but she doesn't have to, because her power is gone, and in its place is something she never expected: me standing strong, unbroken, and fully in control of my own story. Tomorrow, Tommy has soccer practice, and this time, there's no question about who's picking him up.